I invite you into a place where you are ready to be in relationship with your body, where you can hear me, but you don't need to see me. There's nothing that you need to see in my own movement practice today that will help and inform you. Of course, you can always look over and I'm here. And sometimes I'll be right alongside and parallel play with you, but other times I might be simply using my voice to cue you, okay? Today's theme is the first teachings. We're going to start standing. We're going to go to the floor and we're going to come back to standing. So moving into your feet in some place in your space. As a somatic groundwork guide, what I offer here today is simply an invitation. And this invitation may or may not be just the right thing for you. So please follow your own impulses, listening to what's appropriate for you in the moment. If what I offer is not quite right, that's okay. Do what is right. I'm going to take a minute here myself to connect into the field, allowing you to find yourself in standing in your space. And let's see what starts to arrive. So as we are an international circle, you are very much in your own unique local space, but then globally, we're in parallel experimentation together. If that's something that you're able to bring into in terms of your imagining or in terms of how you hold the presence of you, if you're able to find some connections into the greater network across the planet, whether that comes through the field of space or down through your own roots into this mycelium network that then travels across the planet through land, then becomes its own unique web of support through ocean, water. There's something unique about being in practice alone, and there's something unique about being in practice in circle and community. So here today, we have the opportunity to really move between both of these kinds of experiences. All right, so beginning to take your eyes around your space and allow this kind of like eye movement, the seeing into your space. Allow this to then inform your body on beginning to move and interact with space, again, in the way that's appropriate for you. So this is this practice of like really seeing what's in front of you, allowing your eyes to land what feels good. It could be color or texture that you like. Softening kind of the outer tension of your eye globes. So there's this way that you're seeing is also dropping kind of into the center of your skull while you are also looking around you. And do look around you. Make sure that you're twisting, allowing this to awaken your spine. Just go with this for a little bit. Your eye is a pathway of initiation. And as you initiate movement with your head and your eyes, what kind of sequencing happens in your own body? Might begin to notice now feet on the ground. Maybe there's a way you can do some real easy level changes, like some shifts of weight, some dropping of your weight down so you're folding in ankles and knees, maybe some rising in your verticality. Maybe there starts to be some circling in your joints, your hips, your shoulders. But all the while, keep coming back to this presence of being in space, allowing your eyes to really be like, they're registering right now, they're active. Allowing all of this to kind of start to subtly slow down, bring you into standing on 2 feet, closing your eyes now if it's appropriate, sending the inner eyes through the whole of you all the way down to soles of feet, 3,000 eyes open from within. Yielding down through right foot, down through left foot, down through the floor, through the subfloor, down through the foundation of the building you're in, down into the dirt, down further still into soil. Smell the soil. Head on top of shoulders, on top of ribs, on top of pelvis, on top of knees, on ankles, into feet, down and down into soil. And if you'd like here, a little bit of easy bouncing, this way to kind of start relating with these natural forces of our planet, this give and take, this push and pull, gravity and ground reaction forces, attraction, repulsion, moving in, moving away. Open flowing breath here. Soft, easy, elastic, bouncing up through your lower body, up into your hips, up around your guts. Your arms might start bouncing a little bit. How can you make this easy through your neck? Letting the jaw move, letting your eyes bounce in their skull. Open mouth exhales here as is appropriate. Maybe there's some sounding. And in an instant, stilling, noticing the sensation. Finding a moment of presence here in your standing body that you can track, meaning, how are you here? How's your body? How's your heart? How's your mind? How are you spiritually? How are all these parts of you expressed through you, through this lived moment? Now, starting with the top of your body, let's see if we can reduce the effort just a little bit to kind of come into these kind of subconscious organizational reflexes that are always working. Can we maybe like strip away some of the superficial layers of work? That's going to be our practice here. So starting with head and neck, how much effort do you really need to hold your head on top of your body? You move into this quality of the yielding and the weightedness down and into your own structure. Now around collarbone and shoulders, maybe heavy fingers. Helps with this release of the carriage of your whole shoulder complex, melting and flowing over your torso. How about now around your viscera, breath, around your guts, deep into your pelvic bowl. Is there some tension there that you can just let kind of dissolve just a little bit down into the canyons of your pelvis? So I'm now softening into my knees and my ankles a little bit. It's almost like I'm melting down into the ground, but there's enough tensegrity moving through me spatially, through my head, that I'm here almost like suspended. Reduce the work around your thighs, reduce the work around your knees. Noticing right ankle, right foot spreading wide, left foot spreading wide. And if a little wind came by, you would move with it. You would move because of it. So as you're softening and reducing effort, there's now this kind of subtle movement happening. All these little physiological puzzle pieces, intending to keep you upright. And you're playing a game of, well, what if I was to fall over? And this can change your whole global state from feeling that, I don't know, kind of more solid densification of our matter, right? Very boundaried. And this phase shift into something more gel-like, more pliable, more receptive, like water, like flow. This wind's moving, you're moving around its edges. Little whispers in your ear, you turn that way. The small dance. Attention to your inner landscape, and then attention to the outer world, space, what you hear, what you see, the quality of the air around you, the spatial matrices that holds you in place. So connecting with your own center, imagining into your center being inside the center of another body, earth, something smaller if you want, your house. Then that's the center of another body, center of another body. Nested systems that we only know because we sense into them. Notice your breath here. And from this place, a very strong push down through the floor, and allow this then to change the stiffness of the tensegrity that moves you, that is you, to where you can feel now some energy around your knees, some energy through the center of your hip volumes, some energy through the deep volume of you, up through your lungs and your heart, this spatial reach out through the crown. Just notice that switch in effort, what that does for you, how that changes your experience. And then from here, like head, like water, pouring the bowl of your skull out over the floor of your feet. Easy rolling down through your spine slowly. Allow this small dance to be present now as you start to explore spinal sequencing. Weighting down through your legs. Easy fold in the hips, easy fold in the knees, easy fold in your ankles. The falling of your arms. And your body will know how far to go this first time. You'll reach a place where you can hang and allow yourself to be in this hang for a few breaths. Find your support and your release. Ground, breath, outer eyes, inner eyes. And then from the bottom, pushing through the floor, feeling that force transfer up through the legs, pelvis, up through the spine, out the sternum, out the eyes, out the head, maybe arms reach. And there's my first pandiculation. So let's work with spinal sequencing a few more times. Now you can continue to be super slow in this movement, or you can start to play with weight and acceleration, a little bit more flow, moving down, moving up. Start to now check in about the sensations that are occurring as you're moving. Is this in your spine? Is this in your side body? You notice this through your neck, your jaw. Is this in your legs? You know, start to find these constellations so that it's not just one area of your body kind of getting the tension compression, but it's really distributed through you. So the push through your feet and the reach through your crown, and then all of this gooey experience in between. You might start to go to the side from your standing as well. So this is going to start to target more your lateral volume. I often have the image of the weeping willow, a tree I've been in love with since I was a child. So this this falling over to the side. Might also start to do sequencing just through torso, circles on top of your pelvis, not moving all the way into the floor. This is an indulgent experience, moving towards what feels pleasurable, allowing these kind of subtle spaces to expand that often don't get a lot of attention. Seeing if you can keep moving for this quality of the gel, of your fluid systems, especially working through the spine, cerebrospinal fluid. The fluid flow of fascia, right? This transition of fluids between blood and fascia and lymph. All these rivers. At some point, hands come to the ground and you're going to start to weight through hands. So distributing support through feet and hands. And do this in a way that works for you. Okay, you might need to bring your knees down right away. If that's a little bit too much work for your upper body, you can do that. If you want to really kind of work on kind of like how much support you can get, you'd stay on your toes, walk out to your hands. Maybe you spend a moment on the floor, but then do walk back and come to your standing again. All right, so let's make this transition down to the floor, a phrase that moves down and moves up a few times before we settle into the floor. Okay, so moving down, forward, hands and knees of some sort, walking out, walking in. I mean, you could really take this as creatively as you want. If it feels good to be in hands and feet, you might want to bear crawl around, explore your space. Okay, but kind of notice what that effort is like and then come back up to standing and find this place of the kind of the small dance that we've been working with in our standing presence. And you choose the tempo here. Really, tempo is all about like, as long as you can continue to track it, right? As long as you can continue to stay with it. Tempo is variable, right? And sometimes staying with it is really allowing our body to choose the tempo and to move along with that. If you're experiencing some kind of overwhelm and overload, or maybe your body's carrying pain today, or too much emotionally, then I would suggest staying with the slow. Just a little input goes a long way. Nothing needs to be extreme. Little bits at a time. All right, so it's almost like a regression developmentally, right? Our developmental building blocks have all got us into this standing place, or many of us anyway, to get up to standing and locomote. This is now, what's it like to go from standing and return back to being on hands and feet? How is that organization there? What's it like to go down? And then what's it like to come back up? Right? High level to low level. You could also start to choose different ways to go down. So maybe it doesn't always start through a spinal sequence. Maybe you rotate and find your hands, step out in a unique way. Maybe you can let that playful, creative piece come in here, where you're letting your body choose again. How do I go down? How do I get to hands and knees? How do I come up? Eventually coming to hands and knees, and when you're ready, staying there. So we're talking about this basic organization of knees under hips, hands under shoulders to begin. And push reach play here. So if you start on your hands and knees, you can first find that yielding connection, right? Where you're being received, and there's also this kind of support that comes back through you. This really interesting balance of give and take. Now from here, if you push out your hands, can you send that push through your arms, through your shoulder blades, down your spine, out your tail? Maybe that first time you take a moment with that. Really track that force, push to reach. And then from your legs, so it's going to be the long bones of your lower leg, right? Shins on the floor. You're pushing through the tops of your feet or toes and shins through your legs, through your pelvis, spine, out your crown. And your weight comes over your hands, but the push is from your lower body. Push upper body, out tail. Push lower body, out crown. Now, at first, I do recommend doing this slowly enough so you can really kind of go, okay, how am I organizing through the push and the reach? You can make any kinds of agreements or adjustments you need to, study it. Is there anything that you want to change there? Is force getting stuck anywhere? And then start going back and forth in a more like rhythmic rocking dynamic. And allow this to be a soothing kind of activity. Keep your eyes out in front of you. Kind of like focus on an area in front of you. Notice your breathing rhythm here. Now from here, there's two wonderful places to do a little bit of unwinding before we roll to our back. One is you could do the hand push to tail, and you could start to come into this kind of low dog kind of stuff, right? Moving through your arms, maybe rotating. Okay, you could also go opposite, lower body push. You could go into sort of cobra kind of shapes here. Moving more through that deep volume. So see if any one of those call to you as you come out of this, or something else, that's fine. And over the next 2 minutes, I'm going to take my voice out here, allow you to explore that, and then see how your body then organizes to come into back to the ground, either into star or constructive rest position. Notice this sweetness as you come into more support with floor, ground, this experience of gravity working through you. And can you receive that? Can you allow for that in this moment? Least amount of work. Now, this is a very active place, on the other hand. This is not a passive collapse. Now, some of you might be like, hey, but that's kind of where my nervous system is. And so I understand that nervous system state. And so what's it like here to kind of rejuice then, to kind of bolster your tone with earth then? So we can talk about ground, floor. We start then like inviting earth, then it's really this animist relationship of inviting that holding, that carrying, the nurturing of our original mother. And so as the newborn baby is brought into the arms, of their first caregiver, of their mother, the contact, the support, the care, the readiness to be in union. And so we can come back to this essential relationship, this piece here with Earth as we yield. So I'm going to offer a few different ways to explore some easy rocking here within our yielding process. And know that these are, again, invitations. So you might be quite content in finding stillness and ease right where you are. If you want to continue to like just play with the relational experience of sensation and kind of like soothing our autonomic regulation systems, these rocks are very helpful to that end. So you could start with a rhythmic rocking if you have your feet on the ground in constructive rest, or if you have your legs long, you can do this through either of those positions. Again, this begins with this easy push. It's kind of like a push release. It's a little impulse through your lower body. So if your feet are on the floor, a little push release through your feet sends a wave-like motion up through the bones of your legs. Pelvis begins rocking like a boat in water, moves up through your spine, and your skull will also rock in rhythm with your pelvis. If your legs are long, find heel bones in the floor, and then it's a little bit of a pull of your toes and release towards your face. It's still coming from a push of your feet, but sometimes thinking about toes moving towards and then releasing from your face is helpful to start getting the rock. Now, if rocking is new for you, at first this might feel quite effortful and maybe awkward. That makes sense. It's normal. Keep working with it, little intervals, maybe 5 breaths or so of rocking and then pause. For those of you who are very familiar with rhythmic rocking, your good friends, you might start to kind of creatively explore tempo and dynamic in the rock. And when you slow it way down, noticing all the little pieces kind of singing out to one another. And as you speed it up, this kind of energy that can be created through the rock. Now, as you're exploring rocking, it's really important to also be just like tracking your breathing. So if you start to hold your breath, like constrict around it or something and kind of like lock around your breath, that's a good sign to pause for a moment, come back to your body, breathing you. And then as you rock, really allow the rocking to move through the cycle of your breath, right? So we're talking about kind of like, we're beginning to overlay patterns in a way, fundamental patterns. So breathing being a fundamental pattern, keep it going. And then the rocking comes through, right? And they're working together. This is also a good time for this organic sounding that we practice in somatic groundwork. It's a way to get all the smog out, a way to get all the overload out. It's a way to get those expressions out of us that are maybe stuck in little nooks and crannies. This is not singing. This is not something to judge. This is something to allow, like, open your mouth, see what happens. And for the whole Cycle of your exhale. What might need some release? So you're rocking, pausing, tuning into the sensations, buzzing through you. Things come to stillness, rocking again, sounding, rocking stops, sounding continues. Okay, it's this dance. Clearing. Maybe you can relate this experience now to the small dance that we did earlier. Just recognizing the difference of coming into this place of yielding into the support that's already here, and what that's like standing, what that's like now on the floor where we can really have the full support of earth. Another easy rock would be easy knee drop side to side. So legs heavy, knees drop to the side, the soles of your feet, they kind of like change the surfaces of contact on the floor. Now you could come right back, rolling point of contact through your sacrum, right? So initiation through your tail or through your top hip, melting the lower back across the floor, and knees come upright, knees fall to the other side. Rolling point of contact across the back body and the feet. And knees drop. Okay, so easy knee drop here. See if you can get everything to sing on its own. So each leg has its own rhythm. Each half of your pelvis has its own rhythm. Can you really allow kind of the most amount of movement to occur in between the threads of the things? Now with knees dropped to the side, here's a wonderful place for rocking as well. So this will be initiated by the top leg. So the top leg, you're going to have the inner part of your foot along the floor, so big toe bone, heel kind of thing. And if I begin kind of pushing and release along that surface, I have this rock through the top leg, which then sends just a different configuration, different spatial sequencing through me. The top leg, I could bring that same arm into a high Y and really feel the influence of this rocking from lower body through torso, through shoulder, all the way to fingers. It's gonna be really interesting. It's very asymmetrical, but everything can get moving here. So maybe you'd like to do that on each side of your body. Now you might start having spontaneous pandiculation while we're in these yielding processes and these subtle unwindings. We call this unwinding rock and roll or from within. We also have these body yawns then that spontaneously arise. So when you have a pandiculation, you know how I like to say it if you like to practice with me, which is indulge in that, right? Slow it down, really take notice of the squeezing, expanding, tensing, opening kinds of sensations. And let it finish its phrase, and then take a moment of stillness afterwards. Right? Use that opportunity for that positive self-organization that comes from mindful practice. One more rock here that is a wonderful addition. So if my arms are in a T and my feet are going to be on the ground this time and arms are out to the side. I'm going to start with my right hand. I'm going to fold my elbow and I'm going to let my right palm come to my body. For me, it's just touching right on the outside of my chest. Allowing my hand to really rest there for a moment. Getting curious about the contact between these two areas of my own body. Allowing my hand to yield into my chest. Tissues into organs, into bones, into earth. This is an arm slide here. So then taking your palm and sliding it across your body now, across your midline, it's going to cross your other shoulder, reaching your fingertips towards the other hand, and this will start to roll you onto your side. I'm going to take my fingertips across my other palm and actually out even further, comes to the floor, and I've rolled all the way to my forehead towards third eye. Might not go this far. Do what suits you right now. Yielding in this new position here. So there's new relationships of body parts. There's new contact here. And then a little push from the underside of your body initiates returning back to where you came from. Rolling point of contact across your back body. So you have your long arm, that shoulder settles into the floor like a sandbag. Your torso pours into the floor. Your other arm is sliding back to where it came from. Knees organized back to where they were. You're on your standing feet. And back to the place you began. And moving into the other side, I'm going to take my cueing out here so that you can experience that without my voice. And so for the next few minutes here before we move into the next section of class, there's now these different rhythmic rockings. There's one from constructed rest position, long legs. There's a knee drop, and there's the diagonal rocking. There's these arm slides. And then of course, there's things that are emerging for you specifically. So these next few minutes, seeing how to tend to your body through these easy rocks and rolls, finding stillness. And if settling actually into stillness is where you'd like to be for the next few minutes, yeah, go there. Otherwise, you can keep participating with these soothing movements. you haven't settled into stillness, let's do that together now. Just kind of like notice if you're more in a place of attention, which is more kind of like tracking a detail of something, getting curious about a particular channel of sensation. Or if you're more kind of like oriented towards an awareness of both your body and the field around you, this experience of being the center nested in another center. And then here you are, your body breathing you. Without changing anything, although things change when we bring witness to them, start paying attention. Without a need to change anything, like being present to your body breathing you. Notice those inner movements. And reflect on how this is a primary relationship between the outer and the inner of us, cycling and the moving of our breath. It's another way that we're in shared field together. Now in somatic groundwork, we play with 3 different kinds of breaths, I guess. And so I'm going to guide these other 2, but it's like if it's not like working for you to go into the inquiry of breath and keep coming back to what we've done so far, or take what's interesting to you and leave the rest. Remember that you always have choice about what you actually engage with, how you participate in this moment. So let's begin bringing our attention to inhale, and notice how the inhale enters your body. So coming in through your nose, coming in through your mouth, the pathway that it takes down through you. Maybe you notice the canyons that the breath moves through in your own face, down through your neck, and then into your torso. And if you're able to slow down the inhale a little bit without any kind of added stress, right? But slowing it down so you can really kind of pay attention and track these very subtle sensations. The pathway of the inhale. And then what happens on the inside of you as the inhale grows and blooms and then falls. Now, you might also like to put a little bit of a pause right at the end of the biggest expansion inside of you that you can sense, that bloom, and kind of pause there and go, okay, is there any more movement? Again, this is gentle. We're not forcing anything. It's more of a question. Your body will respond, and then the breath changes. Now paying attention to the pathway of your exhale. So we have this bloom and expansion inside. And then there's this shift of things moving back towards center. Noticing what happens in your inner spaces. And again, noticing the pathway of the air, how it moves now out your nose or your mouth. And again, you might want to put a little pause right at the end of the exhale. This kind of moment where everything condenses into a still point. Just noticing if there's any more movement there in that phase, in that place. Now, if it's appropriate for you, this is a time where hands on your own body, like you did with arm slides, can just be really beneficial for our experiencing of expansion breathing. So I like to put my fingertips kind of like right in a little fleshy place above my hip bones. You could put your open palms along the bottom of your ribs, or right on belly and chest, or you could slide your hands, like under your lumbar spine to get movement sensed through your back space. And this contact here then will give you more information about the rise and the fall, this auxetic nature of our breathing, which really is kind of the basic pattern of all things. Right? Here's a pattern of creation right within us, expanding and condensing, moving out, folding in. And if you've had those pauses in at the end of your exhale, end of your inhale, I recommend to kind of leave those out right now and see if you can feel kind of the roundness, the fullness, the ever infinite process of the in to the out and the out to the in. I really like this particular breath to help remember us back into using kind of the fullness of our breath, the fullness of this shape shifting. So when you're ready, kind of letting all of those cues go, coming back into body breathing you, maybe taking your attention into something else that you're curious about, weight of your body on the floor, the sound of the space around you. Maybe your air conditioner's on or there's noise outside, cats meowing. That's what I have in my house. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time setting up bony neutral right now, just because of the time of class, actually. But for this next breath, stiffening breath, ideally what we do first is to kind of explore the relationship between our feet and our bony pelvis and shoulder and head, and kind of like make some choices or agreements about where to kind of land. So if you know that practice, which I know some of you do, been moving through kind of pelvic clocks or just, little movements through your bony rhythms, and see what you might consider your centering place today. This is always an approximation, it's subjective, we're choosing this. So we're exploring kind of the felt sense of centering through our bony layer first. We talked earlier about pelvis rocking like a boat. So in that boat, there was motion to and from, technically called that anterior posterior pelvic tilt. Okay, so this rocking. So it's like the center place of that, the floating place on the ground. Where does the boat find its stillness? Now, stiffening breath is to help remember us into what our body does when there's applied load, when we're going to carry something, pick something up, from picking a glass out of the cabinet to like lifting a box of books, right? There's different needs, requirements that our body has, and there's some kind of inner stiffening that happens to help us with those movements. Let's just do a little practice of this. So I'm going to take my fingertips and I'm going to place them back in kind of like that little fleshy area below my ASIS. You could again put hands, your lower ribs, belly area as well. So beginning with expansion breathing, 1 or 2 breaths, tracking the inhale and the exhale. Now notice on the inhale that there is a rise of your hands where they're located on your body, because there's an inner expansion. right? There's a change in inner volume. So first notice that subtle push of your own body into either your palm or your fingertips. Now with stiffening breath, we're really using the actions of the diaphragm to create this internal support. So as you breathe in and you feel the rise of your body into your hands, the play that we're going to do here is how can you keep that little push into your hands even as you exhale? What do you need to do in your body to maintain that expansion-like volume through your exhale? Now, again, this is subtle. So if you find yourself straining or what I'm saying right now doesn't make a lot of sense, that's okay. Just let that go. Or, keep exploring your own moving that's going on. There's going to be still a change of volume even as you exhale. But in this practice of maintaining that kind of integrity of that expansion is working then with the eccentric contraction of the diaphragm. And it's basically influencing or increasing intra-abdominal pressure even on your exhale. Now, when I do this, I start to notice different muscle parts tune themselves, stiffen. I also notice more movement of my pelvic floor. So as I'm exhaling, I can feel the rising of my pelvic floor. And I notice all of these different muscle parts that are often called the inner unit that we talk about in terms of maintaining integrity through our center. All of those light up and turn on all on their own simply by working with your diaphragm. Now, just to see how this is useful, you might want to do something here that necessitates having more stiffness than expansion breath or body breathing you. So for example, I could do a single thigh lift and practice stiffening breath here with thigh lift, which is only motion at the hip socket. I could do something a little bit more progressive here. I could bring one leg up, second leg up, leave my legs there, practice stiffening breath here while I'm holding the weight of my legs. Could straighten the legs out towards the ceiling. I could start to do leg lowers here. Practicing stiffening breath. Could also leave the legs down and do similar kinds of patterns with your arms. So arms reaching overhead, but hovering right above the ground, arm reaching down. Arms moving out to the side and in, arms moving in opposite directions while practicing stiffening breath. And then you could combine arms and legs, just to get a little bit of a further experience on the benefit of stiffening breath. Let's go ahead and let all of that dissolve now. All of that dissolve. Before we take our journey to standing, inviting a little bit of soft body rolling, getting onto other surfaces of your body. So I'm going to lengthen my legs. And in fact, I really, maybe I'll guide this first. Really been liking this primary core to distal as an organizing movement after doing what we've done so far. So this would be inhaling, reaching fingers and toes out and away, spoking from your center body. So it's like, how do you weave your limbs deep into your center so that they're present and threaded in while also moving out. And then on your exhale, everything comes into our small back seed. Inhale, finding star. Exhale, finding seed. Maybe doing this a few times. And then from your long body, maybe a reach of a foot or a leg across your body, maybe a fold of your arm. Let's begin some soft body rolling. If you haven't been to your belly yet today, I'd recommend going there. Little subtle pushes and sandbag pours. Intention here is to see what surfaces of your body can you get to kiss the floor that haven't yet had the opportunity yet. So that space inside the arm, like armpit area, side body, side of face, side of hip, inside of legs. Backs of hands, tops of feet. Oh, and pendiculation. Here we're going to start to take our journey to standing. So in whatever way you want to come up to that next mid-level place, one of the juicy, kind of easy going ways is dropping knees to the side, reaching top hand, pushing bottom hand, come up to sit. If you were on your belly, you could do a push from the ground, reach out the tail, come to a sort of child's pose or seed position. Now you might want to come up to a mid-level and then go back to the floor a few times. Really just depends on your experience. So, work with your body there. Have your eyes open as you start to come up to another level. Really allowing kind of these subconscious processes, vestibular system, these perceptual shifts through the brain, give them a chance to organize. Taking whatever moments of unwinding that you need while you come up. Is there an area of your body that needs some, sustained stretch, for example? Is there something that needs some rolling or twisting or circling? Or reach through your body to get through. Yeah, there's been a lot that your architecture has digested just now. So see what's left. Also recommend kind of tracking your level of effort, right? So you want to find just the right amount, the just right amount of effort that you need to kind of create within your own system to support the movement that you're doing. Not too much, not too little. No rush here, but when you're ready to change to the next level, it's getting onto your feet somehow. I just pushed back to my feet. Now I'm working through my toes and ankles. But essentially the way we came down, the kind of the sequencing through the spine into hands and feet, we're going to reverse that. So we're going from hands and feet to some kind of forward fold or supported hang. And again, you might need to go between levels a few times. Maybe you need to go from a mid-level to feet. And when you get to your feet and you're ready, spinal sequencing up. This practice can be very self-chiropractic in a way. So you want to give yourself a chance to thoughtfully find yourself up into verticality. Now, if you come up to standing and you're feeling a little bit lightheaded, that sometimes happens. Just give yourself a chance to orient on feet. If you're feeling a little out of body in that kind of way, my recommendation is coming back to these lightweight elastic bounces. And or beginning to walk around your space, right? Forward, backwards, sideways, just meandering essentially. Coming back into the presence of your eyes in the space. And again, it's this question, it's like, what's left? What does my body want to express now? Just had this big experience that has offered so much to your tissues and to your brain. Yeah, and when you're ready, we'll come back to standing presence and we'll do a final check-in here. We did this at the beginning of class. Let's do it again. How are you now? What felt senses are present for you? And if this is a good place for you, if this is a place that you want to return back to because you like it, really kind of capture the words of the felt sense. And let's create a map for this in your neural network. The reminder to you that you have a choice to return to this place of ease, connection, spaciousness, ground, centering, whatever these words are for you. This is an option. This is a possibility too. And then finally, noting what joy or what gratitude is present for you right now. And speaking that maybe out loud or speaking that in your own self. And be clear what joy or what gratitude is here for you now. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for my birthday practice. Such a joy for me. I love moving with you. I love practicing somatic groundwork with you.
So today we really indulged. We did 70 minutes of practice, which a lot of times we don't have the opportunity for that. And today we indulged in it, and it was wonderful that all of you were able to do that with me. These practices can be little bite-sized. I mean, this whole thing, think about a fractalization of this whole flow could also be done in 5 to 10 minutes. The same format, right? Or any aspect of this practice could be like, oh, kind of like a standalone technique to pull into the day and to bring in, again, you know, to be able to manage these waves. And especially anxiety is one that I think humanity is going to be managing now for the long term. We're not getting out of it. We're all too connected and we know it. Which is a good thing, but these are big, they're big waves, big planetary waves. There's a reason for it, right? And yeah, so just remember that, Anna, that it's okay. Sometimes, you know, if a long practice doesn't work, that's okay. These can all be bite-sized. And I find too that sometimes coming into a longer practice, there's just a lot of like mumbling and rumbling around in my mind. You know, so we're working with that too. The nervous system doesn't always want to come along for the ride in the way that we want it to. And so we go, okay, am I going to participate with you today? How can I participate with you today? What's going on? Right? It's like, it's such an interesting relationship. I think one of the practices is like, how do we allow it to be the wave that it is? You know, there's something there. Love and acceptance. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that somatic groundwork has this really wonderful gift to offer to help us through some of the most challenging times when we don't know what else to do. We can actually do somatic groundwork, and it will help enough to bring back enough okayness to allow us to come back up to a place where, okay, I'm regulated enough to be here. And then of course it can do other things, but it always offers that medicine. Oh yeah, I love somatic groundwork. I said I had 2 children. Somatic groundwork was the first child, and the mother, and the grandmother.